The courtroom was silent, almost unbearably so as the doors opened to reveal Robert Sylvester Kelly, the man the world once knew as R. Kelly. His gaze was sharp, calculating, but behind it lingered a darkness that had haunted the music industry for decades. To the untrained eye, he was just another celebrity, a figure adored on stage, but the truth was far more sinister. For years, whispers had surrounded him, rumors of coercion, manipulation, and abuse. But it was a cowardly until the survivors found their voices that the full weight of his crimes began to emerge. This was not just a trial, it was the reckoning of a man who had built a kingdom on the suffering of others. The first to testify was a young woman whose name would come to represent the courage of countless others, Gerhonda Pace. She was small, fragile-looking, but her eyes burned with determination. She spoke of being groomed at a tender age, of nights spent in hotels with Kelly, and of a world where consent was twisted and silenced. Her words were precise, chillingly calm, as if she had rehearsed them in private, not for the court, but for herself. Every detail painted a picture of a predator who was meticulous, manipulative, and relentless. The courtroom hung on her every word, the tension thick enough to choke. It was not just a story of sexual abuse. It was a blueprint of power, control, and the terrifying ease with which fame could shield depravity. Detective Renee Burgess had spent years compiling the case, piecing together testimonies, phone records, hotel receipts, and surveillance footage. Each fragment was a thread, and together they wove an unbreakable web of evidence. Her investigation revealed patterns: Kelly's calculated movements, his ability to isolate his victims, and the culture of fear that kept them silent. She described late-night phone calls, cryptic threats, and promises of stardom in exchange for compliance. He knew exactly what he was doing, Burgess told the court, and he did it over and over again, with full awareness. The weight of those words pressed down on everyone listening, a reminder that manipulation can be as precise as any weapon. Meanwhile, the defense painted a different picture, one that attempted to obscure the pain with charm and fame. Kelly's attorneys questioned credibility, dissected memories, and suggested exaggeration. But each attempt to discredit the victims only seemed to strengthen their resolve. In a brief moment, Kelly himself spoke, his voice measured but cold, denying every accusation with a veneer of innocence. The clash between survivor testimony and celebrity defense created a palpable tension, a courtroom drama that felt as much about morality as it did about law. As the trial progressed, shocking revelations continued to surface. Evidence of secret videos, texts, and letters showed a man who not only sought to control but to document his actions, preserving proof of his own crimes. Prosecutors highlighted this with a careful clinical delivery, letting the evidence speak for itself. The audience in the courtroom and watching from home could hardly believe the meticulousness of his schemes. Each piece of evidence was a mirror reflecting a predator's mind, a chilling insight into how fame can become a shield for the monstrous. Testimonies came from multiple women, each story different, yet all threading together into a tapestry of horror. One woman recounted the relentless psychological pressure to submit, to smile and pretend as she endured unspeakable acts. Another described how promises of record deals and career advancement were tools of entrapment, a calculated mechanism to maintain control. And when Kelly's former associates were called to testify, the web of complicity became clearer. They painted a picture of a system that enabled him, assistants, and staff who turned blind eyes, all motivated by loyalty, fear, or ambition. The courtroom felt like a stage where the darkest aspects of human behavior were laid bare for all to see. The turning point came when prosecutors presented a detailed timeline, aligning witness accounts with travel records and phone logs. The coincidences, once thought unrelated, now formed a precise pattern, demonstrating premeditation. The air in the courtroom was electric as the evidence stacked higher, and with each piece, Kelly's carefully constructed public persona began to crumble. Even those who had once adored him could no longer reconcile the star they loved with the predator on trial. Then came the emotional testimony of those who had once been closest to him, the former partners and insiders who finally spoke of their complicity and fear. Their confessions added layers to the narrative, revealing how manipulation extended beyond the victims to everyone around him. The complexity of the case became evident. This was not a single crime or even a series of isolated incidents. It was a lifetime of calculated abuse, shielded by fame, and exposed only because survivors refused to stay silent. The courtroom drama had shifted from accusation to revelation, with every witness amplifying the horrifying magnitude of Kelly's actions. The trial also revealed the psychological toll on the survivors. Trauma, shame, and fear had kept many silent for decades. Yet their courage in coming forward was a testament to resilience, a defiance of the power Kelly once wielded over them. Their voices, once suppressed, became instruments of justice, and when the final arguments were made, the contrast was stark. The cold calculations of a man who had hidden behind celebrity versus the raw, undeniable truth of countless survivors who demanded accountability. When the verdict was finally read, the room held its collective breath. Guilty on multiple counts, Kelly's fate was sealed, a rare victory in a world where the famous often escape justice. But even as the gavel fell, the echoes of the trial lingered. It was more than a legal triumph. It was a societal reckoning. It challenged the myth of celebrity invincibility, proving that fame cannot forever protect those who exploit and destroy. The courtroom emptied slowly, but the gravity of what had occurred would not fade. Lives had been altered forever, and the public had witnessed the unmasking of a predator who had operated in plain sight for far too long. As the media coverage exploded, debates and discussions erupted worldwide. Opinions varied, but the voices of the survivors remained the most resonant. Their stories had broken through decades of silence, exposing a pattern of abuse that demanded attention. Kelly's career, once celebrated for chart-topping hits, now lay in ruins, a stark reminder that the consequences of predation eventually catch up, no matter how far fame might carry you. And yet, beyond the headlines and courtroom summaries, the most lasting impact was the courage of those who had endured, who had faced fear and manipulation to stand in truth. The trial of R. Kelly would be remembered not just for the notoriety of the accused, but for the resilience of the victims and the meticulous work of those who sought justice. It was a stark reminder that evil can hide behind charisma, behind talent, behind the glamour of celebrity. But truth, persistent and unwavering, eventually pierces even the darkest shadows. And as the courtroom emptied, the final image lingered. Survivors standing tall, their voices no longer silenced, their stories now etched into history. If stories like this keep you hooked, hit subscribe for more.